Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and their professional teams struggle to find great capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, in using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way to exit your highly appreciated assets tax deferred so you can create and preserve more wealth. I'm your co-host, Pearson York, filling in for Brett Swarts, and each episode, I'm joined by some of the best wealth, business, real estate, and leadership individuals in the world to share ideas, deal stories, and inspirations. So together we make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. We're streaming on expertcresecrets.com, Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel, the Kingdom Luxury Realty YouTube channel, and the Kingdom Luxury Realty Facebook channel. I'm very excited about our next guest. He's been a financial planner, financial advisor for the last 10 years. He's got some great insight for us as to what's going on in the market. I already asked him about his crystal ball. He said it's not broken, so we're in for a real treat. Everybody, please help me welcome Matt Murawski. Matt, how are you doing today, bud?
Couldn't be better. Pleasure to be here. And I think I have the best job in the world, so I love talking about money, finance, saving on taxes is a big topic, especially since April 15th is approaching. So it's a good time.
Awesome. So let's, I'm going to take you back. Let's dive in. How'd you get to where you are?
I'm an Ohio boy, and I packed up my Dodge Neon with $300 in my pocket and drove across the country 17 years ago almost. So wow. I landed in the Bay Area and got a job at a VC firm that prioritized small caps and had a great base of information, great base to start from, but it was not for me. And 2010, I just packed up and moved to LA, and I met who was now my partner, Alan Goodstein, from Goodstein Wealth Management, and I've been with him ever since. And he told me, he said, "Hey, listen, if you do right by the client, you're going to be more successful than I am." So, and we're in the process. Alan will probably retire in 6, 7, 8 years, something like that, and in the process of buying him out. But last 10 years, I spent building a book from zero. So my own book of clients and business, and it's hell. If anyone ever tells you it's fun, I think the Elon Musk quote of being an entrepreneur is kind of like eating shards of glass, something like that. I butchered it, but it's very, very true. Anything the first 5 years just are horrible, depression, just awful, because you're pushing the ball uphill, and then eventually there's a peak. And believe me, I'm happy to be where I am today. So
absolutely awesome. So before we dive into the meat of this episode, I want to talk to you, ask you about your strengths. I call them spiritual gifts. Some people call superpowers. What are one or two things that you have kind of received that you use to help make you successful today?
I grew up with a TV inside of a wooden box with 3 channels. And so the upside of that is that every Saturday, every weekend day, the only movies that were ever shown were Rocky and the ones with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bloodsport. So from an early kid, I been a Rocky fan, and that's my greatest strength is just simply that I just stay in the ring, and then you learn, and then you get better, and you surround yourself with people that are smarter than yourself. My partner Alan knows things that have helped me out, and I'm sure I've been able to add value there too. But in any business, starting a business, it's all about perseverance and learning, wanting to grow. There's not an avenue I haven't gone to try to grow this business, and it's quite literally been super rewarding. So I just perseverance, just like investing. It's not about timing. It's not about anything with the market. It's about time in the market. Same thing in any business, whether I was running a pizza shop or financial planning firm or a construction company. It's about just I can take some punches, and believe me, I have. And I stay in the ring. You just want to go the distance. So that's kind of my old school work ethic from growing up with a dad that pushed me real hard. So I carry that with me.
Awesome. Yeah, perseverance is it definitely was a Mike Tyson who said everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? And then what are you going to do? So the fact that you can just stick it out and stay in there is definitely a superpower, because a lot of people give up. So
yeah, I mean, the guys that I used to know and network with, and that started, and they either started at big firms or other RIAs. I only know one out of like 14, 15 guys that are still in this business that didn't burn out, because getting anything off the ground is whether it's a podcast, whether it's anything else, is you really have to be all in. Otherwise, it's just too difficult.
Absolutely. So, you said you have the greatest job in the world.
Yeah.
Why do you think that financial advising, estate planning, your wealth, planning is the greatest job?
Not to be negative, but there's so many people in this business that do it badly that you really you don't have to have all the answers. No one does. I certainly don't pretend to. But it's just a matter of, I can't think of anything more rewarding. This is stupid, but as a kid in downtown Toledo, my dad was a mechanical engineer, but we always did a lot of physical labor and stuff we worked all the time. And I remember driving through downtown Toledo, which is like one of the fastest shrinking cities in the country. And I saw this guy in a suit going into one of these buildings. I'm like, Dad, what do these people do? Like, and he's trying to explain it. I'm like, one day I just want to be a guy that goes in a suit into a building and gets to do whatever they do. And I was like, I don't know, 6 years old. And so I didn't even know what that meant. But as an advisor, you do a lot of things, but I feel like what makes it best is the hardest part about my job is that you internalize all of the most intense fears that your clients have. So when everything's going up, it's great. Everybody feels great, right. But money is so emotional that really you're part psychologist too, because they bring their people's worst behavior as well as their worst fears come out when it comes to money and losing money, because it's such an emotional subject. And I love money. I love markets. I love seeing how the gears work inside of an engine and a motor, how the gears work in the IPO process, the SPAC process, how the whole thing actually works, and why markets matter and why investing matters, and how it can absolutely transform someone's life. They don't have to do super complicated things, but just by doing a couple key things right. And so when clients refer me to their friends, their family, or when they come back, I've been, now 10 years, I've had clients with me that now for 10 years, and they're, they either cross that $1 million mark or that $2 million mark, $3 million. And they're like, oh, we can retire, but we want to keep working. I grew up with an anxiety about money, the fear of not having money, because I realized to be able to see my family, to travel to see, and do all the things, and go snowboarding whenever I want, be able to, help my family and friends when I need to. It's money. So I've always wanted to learn how to invest and make.
Yeah. And that, yeah, absolutely. And so, one of the things that I think you brought up that I think is really important that I want to kind of dive into a little bit is you said money is very emotional. Unpack that a little bit for us. What does it look like to be part psychologist when the market is, quite frankly, like, I don't know how would you say the market is right now? Do you think it's super stellar, or are you a little bit concerned about it? Where are we at with that?
It depends. Like, if it all depends on who you are. For you, for me, for the people in our demographic, the best thing that could happen in the next couple of years is that we get cut in half by 50%, right? Because you're adding into the market. I'm a buyer. My younger clients are buyers, but it's my clients that are in their 70s and 80s that are living on a fixed income that it's terrifying. So when I say money is highly emotional, there's a saying that the joy of earning of earning a dollar or getting a return is one thing, but it's the power, the feeling, and the regret and the depression of losing a dollar. People are much more emotional about losing it than they're 10 times more upset to lose $1. They might be half a times more happy to gain $1. So when you're losing money, it feels like the world is ending. Like, oh, I need to do something right now in this moment to stop the bleeding. And that is when people I fired a client. I can tell you, I know the idiot that sold Boeing at $90. I know I had to fire 2 clients in the middle of the pandemic that are young. They're our age, like that should not have been going to all cash, that should have been trying to pile in. And then there's some people you just can't talk to. They just don't hear it. So, when the market's down, I was visiting Ohio, my family in Ohio, when Russia went into the Ukraine. So of course, the first day I land there, I'm holed up in my sister's old bedroom on the phone with more or less my retirees, not my younger clients, because they're not so concerned, but the people that are like, is this going to be another 2008? What are we going to go? Is the world going extinct? So it's having money makes you feel like you can do anything, and not having money or see that value evaporate makes you super fearful. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I was just talking about this with one of my partners the other day. Deals come in and then they blow up and then they're back on and then they blow up. And it's just like, we were just having a conversation because this one is just like ping ponging back and forth between like, it's on, it's blown up, it's on, it's blown up. And I was just like kind of sitting there, just like kind of just irritated with the, emotional ride that I had been just kind of put through the last like couple of days. And I mean, it's not like this is like a huge like paycheck or anything like that, but it's just like the emotions of like, and I'm in the real estate market. So, I mean, the emotions of the real estate deal, right? Going up and down, like it's on, it's off. And finally he just looked at me. He's like, bro, like you got to just not get emotional about this kind of stuff anymore. Like you are going to burn out so quick if you don't just stay neutral. Like, don't get pissed if it blows up. Don't get super pumped until it's done and it's closed and money's in your account. Like, just chill, bro. And I was just like, oh man, like, yeah, I know, but I could feel it. It is. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's like that thrill of the kill when you land that new building or you close that real estate deal. But also like real estate, that's a whole nother animal because it's, the deal's on, the deal's off. You have different. There's always added baggage. Totally. Everything has its pros and cons, but the biggest superpower in this business, and believe me, I have not perfected it, but I kind of get this from having 2 sisters that were very high strung, is I'm very relaxed. I don't like drama. I don't like to yell. I don't easily get upset about almost anything. And so when the markets are crashing like they did in March of 2020, things like that, even when I was in VC in 2008, I mean, those things, they don't feel good. And I just know the amount of work that's going to be loaded on my shoulders, but I don't, you learn to become emotionally kind of numb. And I think, especially after what happened at the Oscars, emotional discipline is literally one of the most valuable things, other than learning how to communicate with people, right up there. But emotional discipline, whether it's investing or not slapping a comedian in the face because of a joke, whatever it might be, your either emotional discipline or lack of will greatly determine your kind of future. And so emotional discipline is huge. And you have it much worse than I do in the real estate game, because I know that feeling of deal on, deal off. Oh, now there's stipulations. They're coming back. They want, the buyer wants this, the seller wants it. It's you think you got it done. You're so excited, and then someone throws a wrench in there. And so you have it much worse than I do on that end. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. So do you guys at Goldstein do more than just wealth management? We talked a little bit about, you guys do estate planning and whatnot. So what are like 1 or 2 like golden nuggets for for people like in the estate planning like world that you're like, dude, you gotta do this. If you don't have this, like you're just not doing super well right now.
For sure. The thing that people hate to do the most is get a trust set up. And so pushing clients to get the living trust, and depends on everybody's situation, is either different, could be super complex, could be very, very simple. But I, especially because it's something I'm going through myself, where I have a 2.5-year-old. I also have a baby boy coming next week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so the biggest part is, and if anything that anybody has learned in the last 2 years, whether you're left, right, or in the center in politics, is you do not want the government deciding what happens to your assets, but especially if you have kids, what happens to your kids, right? So you don't want to go through probate. It's expensive. You don't want the government to have control over your life, over your nest egg, over what happens to your kids. God forbid something should happen. Yeah. So it is, the estate planning part is the hardest piece of a full financial plan, because, and I experienced it a bit myself, having to go through it and do it, but people equate doing a trust and getting all that stuff done as to, I am dying tomorrow. And I understand that it's not a super sexy thing. It's not fun to talk about what happens, laying things out. But I don't know how many stories people need to read in the newspapers about, it's usually about celebrities, because people find celebrities interesting, about, someone died with X amount, they had no trust, they had no will, they had no nothing. There's, and then it gets caught in the courts. And so the estate planning piece is a huge part. And I have CPA clients that know better, that every time I talk to Peter, I'm like, Peter, did you get the trust done? Oh, and I'm like, come on, man. I was like, believe me, I understand. No one wants to spend the money on this stuff. It's like, you don't want to pay for insurance. You don't want to pay for, but you need to. So the estate planning piece, people have this view that if they get the trust done and they sign off on it, that something bad is going to happen, because it's by far the single hardest thing I have to push on people.
Interesting. Okay. What do you do anything special for your ultra high net worth individuals, your ultra high net worth clients?
Yeah.
To help preserve that wealth and like down to their kids.
Absolutely. So when you're talking about multi-generational wealth, especially if you're dealing with the estate tax, you've got to have, and it depends. Some people are all equity, and that's all they do. Some people have, commercial real estate, residential properties. So every client's different. But as far as trying to bypass the taxes by getting the trust done, there's a lot of ways that you can push things down to the next generation legally without having to, take a huge hit by Uncle Sam. But yeah, for sure, getting, I think, I know you want to touch on the deferred sales trust, things like that. But especially with real estate, it's kind of, the generational wealth is important, because I forget the exact statistic, but most generational wealth basically fails or is completely gone after one passing down.
The third generation.
Yeah, first generation, because the reality is, whoever built that wealth probably started from zero and worked their ass off, has this insane work ethic, and built this huge wealth. And then the next generation, they didn't grow up in the 1-bedroom apartment on the wrong side of town, and they don't have that hunger. They grew up they grow up with money. So it's different. Right. I feel like my mom didn't work, and my dad was a mechanical engineer at Chrysler. So by no means we weren't without anything. But we weren't, we were just a regular middle-class family. And I, grew up having, extremely strong work ethic, where my buddy, who grew up with everything you could ever want, now is living off the system, waiting for his parents to die because he never learned how to work. Inheritance. So yeah, passing down, it's getting the families to sit together and talk. And it really is pretty transformational when you get, and only one time have I had 3 generations, grandparent, parent, and then, young kids, where we're just literally teaching them kind of the basics of, here's why compound interest is important. But, right. But yeah, getting them to have the conversation is much harder than the mechanics of how to save taxes and how to work with their CPA and how to get the trust set up. It's actually getting families to talk to each other so that they know what to expect. That's like I said, the numbers and cents part of our business is actually pretty, I find super simple. I think it's easy. I think investing is pretty straightforward. It's dealing with the emotions, which is this more difficult path.
Interesting. And actually, I've not heard that side of it before. Because a lot of it, I've heard the creator of the wealth passes it down to the people who don't work, who basically pass it down to people who really don't work, and they basically squander it. And that's just kind of like the cycle that we've seen. But and I've heard of ways to kind of remove stuff. Like the Deferred Sales Trust is great for moving assets outside the taxable state. It's a phenomenal tool for that. But it was never really brought up that the hardest part was actually getting them down to nail them down to all sit down and talk. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting dynamic that you're bringing up that I have not really, thought about. With the Deferred Sales Trust, one of the biggest kind of issues is that we have to educate people on it, right? And it's getting them down to sit down and listen. So I guess that makes a lot of sense that it translates over from, the same kind of concept in the Deferred Sales Trust, right, to getting them over to the same thing with you.
Yeah, the reality is, I'm taking a guess here, but I would imagine most people, if you have clients or that, and you're trying to teach someone about the Deferred Sales Trust or ways to pass on, without taking to big generational wealth, without tax hits, and working with the trust attorney and all, they're going to forget 99% of the things. They're just going to know there's a vehicle out there. People don't actually retain most of the, like I said, the nuts and bolts, the stuff that you and I deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
They trust people like you or myself to guide them. So they're kind of like, they're going to forget most of the details, how it even works. But the hardest part is, and I don't like talking about my emotions. I like with my wife and everything else. Like we've had some in-law issues. We've had, I think normal things that most people deal with. I don't like talking. I would much rather, I'm the guy that wants to go to bed angry and wake up in a new day. My wife wants to stay up and talk. So I prefer not to talk about my feelings or emotions. And I can appreciate it, and I recognize it in other people. When you get parents and, it's a really like I said, money is next to sex, money is a super sensitive subject. Really? And families, when they get to, it's really tough. I have an architect couple that are fantastic parents. Some of literally the best clients anyone could ask for. And they're the ones I've seen pulled off the best, where they bring their kids in on not every year, but every couple years, because they're getting older. They're going to be in their 70s soon. And they talk about where the assets are. They help. They let me educate the kids. I've taken their frame book, and I've used that for other clients because it's so important. But yeah, and most people don't like. It's really touchy. Yeah,
and I mean, you're also dealing with death, right? If you're doing the estate planning, people are looking at go, okay, well, when you die, Dad, do I get that? That's not really a conversation you want to have. So I can totally understand with where you're coming from.
And I've sat with people that are literally just sitting there waiting for their parents to die, and it drains the soul out of my body. It's so sad that there's, especially obviously I'm biased. I'm from the Midwest, but especially in LA, there is, I would say, more than the national average of people just waiting, because we live in a bizarre world here in Los Angeles where half the town doesn't even work. I don't even know what happens.
I don't know how it was created either.
It's a bizarre world here, but I do love it. But it's bizarre. So
Yeah. I mean, and that one's the third generation, right? Where that dude's going to go prodigal the money and it's gone, after that. Cause they're not taking the time to learn and invest. And, especially if you don't care about your parents, like if you only care about that money, then it's going to be a rude awakening for sure.
Yeah. And money disappears quickly. I mean, it's when you're not making money, the second generation, the generational wealth, they think, even if there's 5-6 million, or if there's, it's amazing how, you can burn easily a few $100,000 a year just on nothing. I mean, that sounds crazy to a lot of people in the country, and I understand because that's where I grew up and how I grew up, but it's, money evaporates very quickly, especially now with inflation being so out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned that lesson the hard way when I was trying to do some day trading, and I was like up, I was just playing around with some like cash in the account, but I mean, yeah, I was like up on Boeing like 60%, and I, went to the bathroom. I came back and I was down 2,700, like over like a series of like 4 or 5 minutes. I was like, where'd it go? Like it's got burned me. I haven't touched it since. I'm like, I'm not going back to that, man.
It's tough. When you get the thing in this business, which is interesting in real estate as well. I'm sure it's slightly different, but if you talk to other advisors, especially when clients come in, or like new prospects, they'll tell you all about their winners, and they'll tell you all about like their fantastic. You wouldn't believe I bought whatever at X amount and it went up 1,000%. But they'll never tell you about their losers. Like I can tell you about AT&T. I can tell you about Kraft Heinz. Oh God, like everybody's got losers, and if you're talking to somebody that doesn't tell you about their losers, and believe me, there's more than that. But they'll lie to you about other things too, because Buffett's got losers. Everybody's got losers, but nobody wants to talk about that. But I think there's actually more to be learned from talking about things that you did wrong than oh, can you believe I've owned Tesla since it was $30? Like who cares? Like great, like tell me something you lost your chin on, and then then we can have a conversation.
I learned not to trade without stop losses.
Stop loss can be very helpful. Yes.
$2,700 lesson right there. It's like as much as a college course.
Exactly.
You learned it in 45 seconds. Dang. So
everything happens so much quicker now too. I mean, I don't think the average, especially the last 5-6 weeks, I couldn't quote you the day, but I remember, the Dow is down 600-700 points green. Like these are everything happens so much faster. Not just because of computer trading and everything else, but the market reacts. These swings in the market are so violent and so quick that I would fail as a day trader. I couldn't day trade if I wanted to. I don't know. I know a lot of people that do it. I don't know a lot. I don't know anybody that makes money at it. But it's tough.
Yeah, that's a whole different world. So, anyways, all right. Well, you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, Matt, what's your favorite leadership quote?
Oh God, it's not exactly a leadership quote, but it's the Steve Jobs quote. It is actually, but you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Therefore, I met Alan because I moved to LA. Well, why did I move to LA? Well, because the firm I was at, I didn't like their ethics and values. And then I met somebody else that introduced, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. So say yes to things going forward, and take chance, take big, this is not investment advice, but in general life, take big chances. And you're going to blow up quite a few of them, but those pay off.
You heard it here, folks. YOLO all your money into Dogecoin. That's a joke. Do not YOLO all your money into Dogecoin.
I'll be out of a license tomorrow. Yeah, definitely don't do that. But like this, I drove across a car with a country in a Dodge Neon with $300 to my name, a car that I had rebuilt myself.
Yeah.
Landed in Marin County in Bay Area and had no job. I literally but it's just, I felt an overwhelming presence to do that. And it has not been an easy road, but my God, there's no turning back. There's no way I'd ever change it.
Absolutely. What's your favorite book?
Favorite book is actually Boys in the Boat. So don't know if you had read it, or the story about University of Washington rowing team back in like World War II era. It's not an investing book. I was a rower in high school and college, so it's amazing. You read that and I love it because of the sport of rowing, and it's amazing how different the world was. But it's also a huge lesson for anybody. And there's going to be a movie coming out on it. But the lesson is, life used to be so much more difficult for everybody. Like, you could say that the world's going down the dump and everything else, and you could probably be right on a lot of issues. But the reality is, things have never been as good as they are today, and as they will be in the coming days. Like, when you realize how difficult life is, or life was, even if you think about 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to, I mean, maybe 10 years ago, but like, I can FaceTime my family. They get to see my daughter every day in HD, and they're 2,500 miles away. 15 years ago, that wasn't really you're not at the palm of your hand. So realizing how good we have it. Life used to be a lot more difficult for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, Matt, thanks so much for your time. We are out of time, guys. If they want to connect with you, you guys can connect with Matt on Instagram at Murawski.mj. That's MURAWSKI.mj. Connect with Matt there. We can also, if you guys want to learn more about the Deferred Sales Trust and how it can move assets outside the taxable estate, defer capital gains tax on any highly appreciated asset, you can learn more about that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We also have a weekly mastermind where you can come and learn about the Deferred Sales Trust and talk about just all things related to that. That's every Friday at 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Come to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and learn about that. Matt, we'll definitely see you on that.
Yeah, I'm going to put out. I'd love to join in that. On that.
Yeah, absolutely. Come learn and dive in, see how you guys can leverage this thing to just blow things out of the water. So if you guys are looking for any financial advising, make sure to go hit up Matt. And Matt, thanks again for your time. It was an absolute pleasure to interview you. And thanks again. And thanks, everybody, for listening to another episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast. As always, we believe the most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way to grow your wealth. Please rate, review, subscribe. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.